And he sees you approach, and he turns, and he's holding this knife. And he looks you up and down. He says, yes?
I say, greetings. I came to you on the suggestion of poem. My name's, I'm called Orphan.
And he says, and I suppose you know my name if you talk to Poem.
You're Roxy's?
He nods. This is Roxy's Udok.
It's good to meet you. I have some news from your niece and nephew, if you'd like to hear it.
And at that, you see his face lighten a little bit. He says, do you now? You come from Kiska.
Yes, we sailed there from, well, it's some island. And we spent quite some time in Kiska, and I got to know your niece and nephew.
And he turns from you, walks towards the cabin, sets himself down on a tree stump right in front of the house, reaches into a basket nearby, pulls out what looks to be a pear. He throws one at you.
I'll catch it.
Then he reaches out and takes one for himself and begins to peel it with his knife.
I'll just bite into it.
What news have you?
They seem to be doing well. I was a bit closer to Nanice than I'm soon, and I helped her get a spot in a new program that the building that she wanted.
And you see the sourness in his face crack a little bit. You see the beginnings of a smile. He says, yes, I wouldn't imagine Amshun would like you very much.
I smile at that. Yeah, it was a pity. I wish I could have gotten closer to both of them, but there just wasn't time.
So I'm glad they're doing well. So what's your story?
I smile and say, oh, my story is a long one, and I just finished telling it, but the short version is, I'm not quite from this world. I'm a transplant from a different world.
Whoa, wait. Does this involve onions?
This is the short version, right?
This is nothing.
And I mean, you get the exact same response from him as you got from Poem at any mention that you're from another world, or even that there are other worlds. Like, he doesn't really seem to understand. Like, he seems confused that you're referring to Tetluteus as another world. He's like, it's not another world, it's the continent. You just sail across the ocean and you're there, kind of thing.
Yeah, I rather than press the point, I'll just say, I suppose you must be right. But anyway, I'm from the monastery of the Weaving Mother. You may or may not have heard of it.
Says I haven't, but I fought alongside monks before. They're a brave sort, quiet, a little queer.
I say, oh, well, they sound like people worth knowing.
So is that why you came to the village, to bring me news of my niece and nephew?
Well, I came to the village because it was the only other settlement of Tieflings that I had heard of in this entire world.
This is probably the only you're like to find in Romneus, that's for sure.
So yes, I understood from Poem that our kind aren't very well liked or respected on this continent. I have some first-hand knowledge of that myself, and I chuckle.
He says, by our kind, you mean tailed ones.
I nod.
He says, well, you're right about that as well.
I'll ask him, the other Udax, your brother, is he untailed?
He shakes his head. He says, nope. They've all been clipped in the traditional and proper way. I'm the only one who escaped that particular act of barbarism.
How did you do that?
Says, I lucked out. I was born a bastard.
So they do this. They submit to this voluntarily and willingly, then.
Most of them are babies when it happens. My father was a human who spirited me away from this place before they had the chance.
I see. Well, I just say it's a shame in my eyes.
So do you believe it?
Oh, no, I believe nothing like that. I've spent years and years in meditation. I think that I like to think that I have a good grasp of myself and my own character, and if I had any connection to the Nine Hells, I think I would be the first to know.
He says, "Oh, well, make no mistake, lass, we have a connection to the Nine Hells." He says, the practice is barbaric, but the superstition is true. He says, all of us are connected to that diabolical place. Tail or no. The conceit that you could sever that connection. And he just shakes his head.
I just consider this for a second. So do you believe that we are all in service to some demon somewhere?
I believe that
Without even knowing
dwarves are born of the mountains, and that elves are born of the sands. But this does not define who they are, just what they are.
It's an interesting perspective, I suppose.
So you mean to speak with my uncle?
Yes. I went to his mansion, or well, I couldn't really call it a mansion. What would you call it?
It's the manor house, yeah.
Yeah, I went to the manor house earlier, but was turned away.
So I offer you some advice.
Godly?
Don't.
Don't speak to them?
I thank you for the news, but there's no business for you here. Just take your things, collect your companions, go back down the river from whence you came.
You think that they won't speak to me?
He shrugs. He says, perhaps not. What difference does it make?
Well, if they can tell me anything that I need to know, it might make some difference.
And the look on his face looks contemptuous at the mention of anything they need to know. He says, I'll tell you this. No Udok can tell you anything you need to know. These people care about wealth, prestige, social standing. That's it. Any honor is foreign here.
Alright, well thank you for your assessment.
Says,
do you mind if I come back tomorrow to visit you?
Don't take my word. Says, look to the fields tomorrow morning. To the south of the trees. Look in the south plantation. See for yourself. Look on the honor of the Udoks.
Alright.
And he kind of snorts to himself. What the hell was that?
Take someone's cell phone fart is
the craziest snort I've ever heard.
Somebody just had a robo-orgasm.
Beep boop.
50,000 oscillations per second. Oh yeah, baby.
So Nick, this old man is damaging your worldviews. Do you use Infernal Rebuke on him?
Now, Roxy's isn't old. Roxy's is actually fairly young. How old is he? I have it written down here. He's maybe in his late 20s. He's fairly young.
How do you spell his name while I'm at it?
Rolxes. Roxy's.
Roxy's?
Alright. I nod to him and say, I'll do that. Thank you.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch up here, it is now nighttime. What is everybody's nighttime action?
Well, I'm gonna go check out that mound.
Okay.
Do you tell anyone you're doing that?
No.
Okay.
Why would Zook tell anyone?
Well, let me rephrase this a little bit. Does anybody have a nighttime action?
No,
Other than
No.
Zook?
I'm waiting
Khalil
for
has none.
I mean, if Tarin were to know Zook was going and doing this, he'd be totally into it. But no, he'll just stay in his room.
Yeah, I'm way down with searching the fucking river they don't want us to look at, but Zook's not going to tell us.
You know, actually, I take it back. Because Zook has had a few misadventures now with Eldove. They're kind of bros. So I think that Zook would say to Eldove, dude, he would go to his room, sit down in his bed, pat the covers. No, he'd,
Wow. Wow.
he would go to Eldove's room and say, I'm going to check out that mound where the river is coming from. You in?
And I'll say, I can't. I have to wait for this guy to send word.
Hard Harsh.
It looks like you're going alone, Zook.
All right, fair enough.
So you approach the mound again, and yeah, iron door. Looks like it takes 2 keys to open up, and the water kind of seeps in underneath the hill.
All right. Make sure no one is around. No one followed me out here.
It's very dark, very quiet, very empty. I mean, when you were walking from the inn, you passed a couple of people, but I mean, there's no houses up this way. There's no nothing.
And pick the lock.
Make a wisdom save, DC 15.
Wait, what's my wisdom modifier?
Hope it's 1.
It is plus 2, actually.
Plus 2, yeah.
All
I was
right.
like, oh god, because intelligence is -1. I was like, oh, that'd be funny.
You go to pick the lock, and you go to work inside the lock with your thieves' tools, and as soon as you put the one of your picks inside of the first keyhole, you see some kind of arcane rune glow very brightly over the lock, and you hear a very calming voice in your mind says, "Please report immediately to the guardhouse and inform them of your unsuccessful attempt to break into the reservoir. Thank you, and have a good day." And for a moment, this sounds like the best advice you've ever heard in your life. And you have this very strong urge to stop picking this lock and march off to the guardhouse and turn yourself in. But after a moment, you shake it off. You're like, wait, no, what's wrong with me? That's not going to... No, hold on.
That
Wow.
was stupid.
And you shake it
I'm
off.
so glad I passed that check.
I like the wizards here a lot.
So I'm gonna go back to the inn.
Without picking the lock?
Oh hell no. Well, no, because I definitely feel like I need some sort of. I at least need someone to hold me back.
Okay.
If I decide to bolt for the guardhouse, so
Okay.
if that takes up my whole night action, cool. Otherwise, I might. So what, Eldove? What were you waiting on
your way back to the inn,
Okay.
you see one of the guard patrols circle around behind the inn to circle back into town. Roll me a perception check, DC 12. No,
Seriously?
you don't see shit. You go back to the inn.
Hey, at least you passed that save and didn't go to the guardhouse.
Yeah, at least you didn't get a 2 in the save.
Yeah. Well, I probably would have lucky.
Oh, come on. How fun would that have been?
Oh, that would have been a great...
Come on, guys. So much
Everybody would have
fun.
laughed.
All right, so I just went back to the inn for now. I don't know
Everybody-
if I'll have another chance to.
Has a good night's sleep. Tarin, first thing in the morning, Traeger approaches you. And he says, "I don't understand, Captain. I don't understand any of this. Why am I here? Why did you bring me out here? I've suffered these injuries. I don't understand my role in all of this. Why do you persist in tormenting me when I've already lost everything?"
Was he staying with Orphan? There were 2 people in a room because we had 4, right? There's 8 of us.
It doesn't really matter who he's staying with. I mean, he approaches you downstairs in the common room in the morning.
Okay. Give me 1 second, and I'll just do a quick sending to Orphan. In common room, need you to help me talk to Traeger.
And Orphan's also sitting in the common room, and she looks up. It's like, well, you could have just said that out loud.
Well, I didn't know that.
Oh, is it? Well, didn't Rolkeys tell me to go to the fields in the morning?
Yes, but you just woke up. You're down eating your morning meal.
Okay, so I'm eating breakfast down the common. Got it.
Yes.
Okay, then I won't use sending. I'll just use mind link.
Yeah.
I look over at Traeger, and I'll join him. Unless there's only 1 table in here.
No, there's many tables down here. It's a common room.
So I'll go join the 2 of them.
And I mean, the other patrons of the inn, there are 4 of them that you can tell. Poem, the Dwarven Lady, and then a pair of sand elves who try to keep off to themselves in one corner of the area. So, but I mean, Traeger confronted Tarin as Tarin was coming down into the stairs for the meal.
Okay.
And I'll just sort of, I'll wave over to Orphan, and I'll have him come over and sit down and eat with me. Like, both of them.
And he sits down and he waits for you to begin eating your breakfasts. And I mean, the look of it's confusion mixed with anger, and like he's already been through so much in his life, and now this well-dressed pirate nobleman is just toying with him.
All right, so I'll explain to him. All right, Traeger, I know that you've lost a lot. I know that you've suffered a lot to be here. The reason that we wanted you here was because we knew of this plantation, and I know that you were a farmer before we were all held captive. I thought that we might help you find a place here, help you, rebuild your life in a setting where you could have something to offer.
For what it's worth, you're from a completely different world. There might be secrets of agriculture you have that these people don't.
Exactly.
And he scoffs. I've seen what they're growing in the fields. This climate, these crops. I don't know anything about this. We grew corn, wheat, etc.
And I just suddenly,
cows.
Tarin suddenly gets the stupidest look on his face, and he looks at Orphan. He's like, "We could have been sitting on a gold mine of non-indigenous plant seeds in that ship hold." Obviously, I don't think non-indigenous.
He says, "I don't have any knowledge that these people could put to use, and even if I did," he says, "I don't know if what it would be worth to them."
I say, well, that's what we're trying to find out. Is we've been trying to get a meeting with the plantation holders to find out if they have a spot on the plantation for you.
And Taker, if this isn't the place for you, we will find somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. And he stands up and goes back upstairs.
To be fair, we haven't been toying with him.
Yeah,
If anything, we've been shielding with him.
So, morning actions.
I get down to the fields.
Yeah, everybody go down and put your... Okay, Tarin, morning action.
Did Orphan, do you mention that you're going to the fields, or?
I'll mention to Tarin that I am.
I'll go with you, if you don't mind.
I say, all right, fair enough.
I try to find Eldove in the morning and tell him about my misadventure the night before.
I'm curious about those ruins. I'll walk up there, go look at them.
Khalil, morning action.
Khalil would probably go to try and find it, since everybody else seems to be splitting apart. He'd probably be looking for some way to make himself feel useful, because because we're going to be staying here for a little while.
Useful
That's
how?
Going to aiding in the town guard, perhaps.
Guardhouse is up here.
Up down, and that's where he'll go.
Okay, Arik.
What's that?
This circular thing here, this is some manner of ancient ruin. Looks like a pile of rubble from far off. Okay. Arik goes up on the hill to examine the pile of rubble.
Yep.
And it looks like the remains of a statue from the old age of the Witch Kings of the desert. It looks like the back half of a coiled winged snake. And you can't make out a lot of the rest of it. This thing certainly predates any of the other structures in the village.
What about the baseball field over here next to it?
You didn't go there, did you? You went to the guardhouse.
I know. It looks like a baseball field.
Field of dreams.
As you're up here and you're kind of looking around, some of the townsfolk come up the path, and they regard you politely, but they don't say anything unless you speak to them first. And they make small offerings to the base of the statue. They lay down like dried flower petals. One man lays down a copper coin, and they say a quick prayer, and then they move back down and go back to their work.
Roll religion?
Okay, go ahead.
You're a priest, you're good at that, right?
Yeah. We'll see how this goes.
Okay.
Hey, at least I build my character as an investigator and actually took investigation as a trained skill.
All you get is your religion? You don't have any pluses to religion?
No, it's an intelligence skill.
Right, but you don't come trained in religion as a priest?
No.
Okay. Well, 10's enough.
We've been over this.
I still don't
we
believe
were
it, though.
just as surprised.
So, you don't know anything about the statue or what it might have been or might have represented, but you do know the sad state of affairs of a lot of these very remote, rural slave communities in Romneus, in that they don't have religion. So, a lot of them who have been, like, their families have been slaves on the same plot of land or in the service to the same tribe or nomadic tribe or whatever for several generations. They kind of cling to just whatever's around. So you get the sense that there's no chapel in the town, there's no church, there's no presence of religion. So you kind of get the sense that these uneducated slave folk have just kind of latched onto this mysterious remains of this statue for their religious needs.
Religious needs, huh? Sounds like an opportune time to try and convert some of the townsfolk.
So you're going to convert some of these desert townsfolk to your god of the ocean.
Yes, I'm
Awesome.
going to start preaching.
So, where do you intend to go to preach? I mean, during the morning and afternoon, most of the slaves are congregating out in the fields.
So what I'm going to do, I guess, after I see what they're doing here and deduce that it's some sort of religious thing, I'm going to walk around and find as many individual slaves as I can and tell them to meet me at where would be a good meeting place? In the right here.
Right where? So
Right there.
like you're gonna stand in the river. This is the deepest part of the river here.
I'm not gonna stand in the river, but next to it. Like, what's like this area here? Maybe
Just houses.
just houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the mill.
Or, like,
Now people inquire why they want you to meet them there. Like what are you inviting them to? Is the question people have.
how should I?
Pizza party.
To offer them hope and fulfillment in their lives. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. Roll persuasion. Roll it 3 times. You're aiming
3 times.
DC 10, 12, and 15 for each roll.
Okay. That is 12.
Okay, so the first one's passed. This one is at 12.
That one's at 11.
Okay, that one failed. Not 15. And that passes.
Hold
Okay.
on.
So go ahead and place yourself up there, and we'll take that as your afternoon action.
Okay.
What are Zook and Eldove doing? What the hell is even?
I wanted to look at those runes.
You go up there, and you don't see any runes.
I look at Eldove like,
You're
I thought you said
Eldove.
they were runes. I look at Zook like, I thought you said they were runes.
There were ruins when I tried to pick the lock.
Wait, no, the ruins are to the south of the village.
What?
Shut up.
So this Laurel or Hardy bullshit's going on, so... No. But no, you do not see any runes. Can you detect magic at all?
No.
Okay, then you
We
don't
probably
see
should have
shit.
asked the guy who can detect magic to come with
No,
us.
I can't detect magic even a little bit.
I mean, to
So-
you, it just looks like a very heavy iron door that has a large lock that requires 2 keys to open.
So if I try to pick this thing, it's gonna try to. It sounds like it's gonna try to convince me to go turn myself in, and that's when the ruins appeared.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Are you explaining that to Eldove, or...?
Yeah, no, I'm explaining it.
Okay, so he explains to you what happened last night.
So maybe if you tried to pick it again, or at least touch the lock, the runes will show up.
Right. So, can you restrain me if I try to go turn myself into the authorities?
I can set you on fire. Do you think that would bring you back to your senses?
That is less hopeful. Do you want me to try to pick the lock again? I need to know that you will not let me turn myself into the authorities.
So I tell you what, I'll make it a non-lethal fire.
You know what? I think I should go get
Nodal,
Tarin.
I'm going to rule that your fireballs and such you can't make non-lethal. That does not make any
It's
sense.
heat exhaustion. It's heat exhaustion.
If you burn someone to death, they die.
The non-lethal fireball is heat exhaustion.
Yeah.
So Zook tries to pick the lock again. This will be fun. Yes? No?
I'm serious. I need to have this conversation with Eldove.
Okay.
Let's see here.
And as you guys are standing here talking, Poem approaches.
Oh God.
And she sees you standing there, and she kind of stands up straight. Says, "Good morning, gentlemen."
I say, hi, do you know anything about this hill over here?
You see a
It seems rather interesting that this water is coming out of it.
You see a sly smile appear on her face, and she says, "I know that Master Warlock pays me to replace a glyph of warding here every time it gets dispelled." She looks down at Zook, and she knows. She knows right away.
I have not met her yet, though, have I?
Yeah, you were there for at least part of that conversation, I thought.
No, it wasn't.
I was wandering around town.
Oh no, that's right.
No, I guess you
Yeah,
haven't.
he was not there.
Well, Eldove, you know who Poem is, clearly.
Yeah.
Do you introduce us, or do I introduce myself?
No, I'll introduce you. I don't give a shit.
Okay.
So this is my companion Zook.
And Poem just, like, she has a very sly look on her face. Like, she's very amused by this. She's like, "Well, then I commend you, my little friend, for resisting the spell."
I don't know what you're talking about.
Of course you don't. And she approaches the door, and she holds out her hands towards the lock, speaks an incantation, and you see the bright rune that you saw last night appear once again over the lock and then vanish. She turns around. She says, "Well, I thank you, little friend. You've earned me a paycheck." And she takes her leave and walks off.
I was gonna say, that's quite a racket you two could have.
Yeah,
Wait, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I'm thinking she's. I don't know. No.
And as you converse, you see she walked away from you, but she only walked about, like, away a little, and then she turns back and is just watching. She's out of earshot, but she's leaning on her staff, watching you very
waves.
curiously. And when you wave to her, she nods and she turns and continues on her way.
Is whistling nonchalantly a free action?
Yes. What is this even? What is happening here? I don't even know.
What is what happening?
As far as I can tell, she doesn't give a shit, and I don't give a shit. What are they gonna say? Oh yeah, there was this really interesting hill. Oh, did you pick the lock? No. Is the lock picked?
No, the lock was not picked. The door was still locked. He set off the
Yeah.
glyph and then immediately he chickened out, basically.
It's true, but it sounds like I could have fucking picked it after the clip.
Everyone around me keeps doing, like, really suspicious things that I just want to ask people about. It's just like, so what's under the hill? I'm Eldove, let me in.
So, what's happening with this door, Zook? What's the deal?
Nothing right now. It's the middle of the day.
Yeah?
I was just coming out here to show it to Eldove and ask him what he thinks.
What do you think, Eldove?
It's a rather nice lock.
It's pretty nice, isn't it?
Alright, well this has been pointless.
Let's go check out those ruins to the south.
Okay.
Is that what you guys are doing in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and move yourself down there.
Poem is pretty great. Yeah.
This Abbott Costello routine we got going on here.
Hey, I'm a major in history, so I'm interested
Khalil.
in some ancient runes.
Yo.
You approach the guard's house
Mm-hmm.
as a young woman, with a couple of guardswomen, are leaving to begin their morning patrol.
Okay.
She's very young. She looks to be maybe 17, 18 years old.
Wow.
And she is, she's dressed like a guard.
Greenhorn.
But she's not, actually.
Oh.
She's dressed more like a lieutenant.
Oh wow.
And she sees
That's
you
impressive.
approached. And roll me a history check. DC's only 10 for you because you're from Kiska.
Do I actually have history? No, I don't. Okay.
Then it's going to be
Flat roll.
intelligence.
Flat roll. It is 18.
Perfect. On her armor, you see a sigil of a coiled serpent with fangs, and the fangs are dripping blood.
Whoa.
And
would I have seen anything like that from my brief military background?
You know exactly what it is. Now, the stone structure, you come up on this hill to the guardhouse, and it's overlooking down over the village. And you see banners on the outside of the building displaying this same coiled snake with bloodied fangs that's on the armor of all these guardswomen. And you know it to be the sigil of a mercenary company called the Sanguine Serpents, which used to be very nomadic for generations, selling themselves out to various lords and warring bands and sand elf merchants and whatever. But in the past, very recently in the past couple of years, the Serpents were taken under new management, essentially, and hired on here as guardsfolk of Udok's village. And they... almost overnight, all of the men in the mercenary company disappeared. And there are rumors as to what happened to them. Some say they were murdered, some say they were killed, some say they were transformed into women. But at this point, the Sanguine Serpents work for the Udoks, and they are all women.
Fascinating. Well,
so, now,
I would still present myself to offer my service as an investigator if that's what they want.
Okay. Now, as a Keyskin soldier, what is your opinion of the various mercenary companies? I mean, these mercenary companies run the gamut. There's big business for them way out in the desert, out in the wildlands. Like, have you had any contact with them, or have you?
Possibly, like you said, dealing with, like you said, when we were in the pyramid, dealing with the Red Dragon, calling one of a group like this, and probably just. I kind of consider them, so they're doing what they do, but as long as they don't get in my way, I have no problem with it.
And exactly right. If you guys hadn't taken care of the dragon yourself, probably what the Wall Walkers would have done was contract out to one of these mercenary companies to go down there and exterminate it. But it wouldn't have been the Serpents, because the Serpents have contracted on here at Udok's village. So you approach.
So as a PMC?
Basically, yeah. War has changed.
So, okay, watch out for nanomachines. Got it.
The young woman, the lieutenant, and her two guardswomen that are with her are even younger, maybe 15, 16 years old. But the lieutenant, she straightens up when she sees you, dressed in your armor. She says, "Well met, Sir Wallwalker."
Well met. I'm in the. My name is Khalil Navarra. I'm in town for a few days. I present myself for any assistance you may need. Not really. Just if you have, I'm an investigator for the Wall Walkers. If you have any need of investigation, then feel free to consider me for that service.
She nods. She introduces herself as Wahiba.
Wahiba.
And her two guards are unimportant NPC number 1 and unimportant NPC number 2.
Oh, they sound expendable.
Red shirt 1 and red shirt 2.
She says, "We have no pressing need for your services, but you're more than welcome to come on my patrol with me."
Well, yeah, and if you have any need for it, then I am currently staying at the Mug.
Well, no, she's about to go on her morning patrol. She invites
if you have
along.
no problem with it, then very well.
And as you guys walk, she kind of points out the major structures of the city. She kind of goes over her duties in town. Very quiet hamlet. And what you learn is the reason the Udoks have signed on a mercenary company is because this little oasis, this little patch of green in the desert, is very valuable.
Oh, I bet.
And their job, more so than keeping the peace in the village, which they do, but more so than that, is to repel threats from the outside. She says, these days, especially gnolls, they tarry the borders of our lands.
While we're walking, I'll tell a little bit about the gnolls that we encountered coming up the river.
And she says, and if you kill 30 more, it still won't be enough.
Yeah, I figured as much. We have trouble with their kind from time to time in Kiska.
You actually don't have. They don't come anywhere near Kiska.
No.
No, they know way better than to come anywhere near civilized land like that. I mean, you guys came way up out in the boonies, so But yeah, and she seems very proud of how the Sanguine Serpents have kept this place safe for the past several years. And she seems honored to have a Keyskin Wallwalker stand beside her on her patrol. Like, she seems a little bit enamored with you, actually. And in fact, you know what? You killed that history check, so I'm going to give you a little bit more. The leader of the Serpents, the Sanguine Serpents, is a woman without a name. She was born to a tribe of nomads that don't name their female children until they're either sold off as slaves or they're married off. And so she was born to her tribal... Her father was the tribal chief, but he was killed before her marriage could go through. So her marriage proposal was nullified, and she was going to be sold off to another tribe. But before that could happen, she managed to escape. And she's only known... Her father was called Jasim the Jackal, and he was a very notorious warlord when he led this particular tribe. So she's only known as Jasim the Jackal's daughter. So in common parlance, people refer to her as the daughter. And so she's known to be extremely fierce and extremely military-minded. She's known... The reputation that reached you is she's a brilliant tactician. So that information you would have. And after she came to power in the Serpents, that's when men were expelled from the company. And that's how it exists in its current state today.
Okay, so it wasn't any of those crazy things where like they were killed or
you don't know
turned into women. Oh,
you don't I mean, you could assume very realistically that she just slit all of their throats. Like that's equally as likely as any other rumor you've heard.
Gotcha. Well, that's interesting.
So, but the woman you're walking with, Wahiba, you don't get the sense that she's particularly like bloodthirsty or fierce at all. She seems very straight-laced, buttoned down. She takes great pride in her work. She tells you of the other two lieutenants, Nakil, who does the afternoon patrol, and then Amina, who does patrolling through the town during the night.
Wahiba. Then you got who again? I'm sorry. Can you run those names by me one more time?
Nakil.
You cut out Brick Road, sorry.
Nakil.
Nakil?
Yeah, she is the afternoon lieutenants. And then at night, the patrol is led by Amina.
Okay.
And so that's how you spend the morning, going around on the patrol with lieutenants. You guys down here in the fields. Coming down in the fields, you're watching the slaves work. And you see... Where is... You see the Tiefling Overseer. His name you've come to learn is Chimere. He is the heir to the Udok estate. He would be Amshun and Nanis's oldest brother.
Okay.
They're the youngest of 7 children. And he's working the fields, and you stop and you observe, and he is very cruel on them. You are very far away from Kiska, where they have very strict rules about how slaves must be treated, about how they're allowed to be punished, and you're very far away from those laws, and it is very apparent just in the way that Chimere and his... I don't know what the one. Lieutenant's not the right word, but his
enforcers.
Not necessarily enforcers, but you know, like his Django's basically. Like he has slaves that oversee each area of the fields, and he encourages them. You can just tell by just spending the morning watching how they work in the fields. It borderlines on abusive some of the time. They are very quick with whips. They are. Depending on where in the fields they're working and who they're actually working, you get the sense that there's like a caste system amongst the slaves here. The lowest ones are the ones that toil in the field, and Chimere is not kind to them. And you get the sense this is what Rolxes was talking about last night when he mentioned there is no honor in this place.
Right. Okay.
I didn't like it in Kiska, and I like it even less here.
You like it much less here. Like Orphan, you remember?
No, I'm saying that to Orphan.
Ah, well, Orphan, it brings to mind the young boy, the Jal servant that you spoke to in the palace at Kiska, and how well mannered he was, and how he didn't speak ill of his life at all. And it seems it's a very stark contrast to what you're seeing in these fields.
Yeah. I nod to Tarin and say, I agree with you. This is a shame. They shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, maybe someone should stop them.
Yeah, maybe
Tarin's
if we had a
gonna walk
dwarf
back
who was
towards
very
the,
anti-slavery, it'd be really nice.
Tarin's gonna just turn and walk back towards the end with that.
We're gonna end up burning down this village, aren't we?
Most likely.
Oh, we burned down a village?
Nodal was paying absolutely no attention until somebody said, "Burn down a village."
It's on the adventuring checklist. I'm sorry. If the inn survives the night, I'll be astounded.
Okay, are the houses made of thatch?
So, Orphan, what's your intention in the fields?
Let's see. I'm considering talking to Chimere, addressing him, but I'm still trying to decide whether that's a good idea or not.
I mean, he's approachable.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go up to him.
Okay.
I'll hail him.
He looks up, looks you over, sees your tail, doesn't like it.
Same old, same old.
And
Say,
he's standing amongst the rows of crops.
I say, alright, I say greetings. I'm called Orphan. Might I assume that you're of the Udoc family?
You might assume that.
So you're the overseer in these fields?
And he looks at you kind of like he can't believe you're questioning him on this. Like, for real? You rolled up in my village? You don't know who I am? He says, yes, I'm Chimere Udoc, heir to the village that you stand in. Is there something I can help you with?
I say, well, I came to visit. I'm just here passing through. Came to visit your village. I was hoping to. I should be speaking with your father soon enough, but while I wait for that, I just thought I'd come and see how you operate here.
And it's a farm. We grow crops. We export.
Mm-hmm. I nod to the slaves out in the field. Are they often unruly, disobedient?
Every day. You wouldn't believe it. And at mention of that, I mean, you see him soften a little bit, and he turns back around. He points out, so that one took an extra ration of water. Points off in another direction. This one stole food from one of the other families. And he mentions off some of the crimes of these various slaves, and he regards them very poorly. And some of the crimes seem petty to you. Some of them seem like they should be reasonably punished. And after he points out a few of them, he turns back. He says, but ever since we hired on the serpents, it's been very easy to keep the peace. Very few runaways the past 2 years.
I say, interesting. I say, well, I must say it's a marked change from what I'm used to in Kiska, but it takes all kinds in this world, I suppose.
And he scoffs and he says, Kiska. He says, which were your favorites, the slaves that played flutes or the ones that lit lamps?
I said I was partial to the flute playing ones.
They were playing shawms.
A Kiskan slave wouldn't know work if it grew and crawled out of their nethers. He looks out and says, my slaves know work. Make no mistake.
I say, I nod to him again. I say, well, thank you for enlightening me.
How long are you staying for, Horned Orphan?
I could say a couple of days, 3, 4 maybe. Not long.
He looks down at your tail and kind of looks at how you're dressed. So I've read about your kind. You're from one of the monasteries up in the mountains.
I nod, that's true.
Is it true you spend days sitting cross-legged, staring off into space, not eating anything?
Once or twice.
And what
Special occasions.
What do you see?
I say, I see visions of the way the world was meant to be.
And he laughs out loud. I'm sure you do, Horned Orphan. Well, enjoy my father's beer and his roof.
I will. Thank you.
And he goes back to whipping his slaves to death.
All right.
You know, NBD.
I'll go back to the inn.
I see the ability to punch fire out of my hands, asshole.
Is everybody poised for their afternoon actions?
Sure.
I didn't miss anybody, did I? No, I didn't. Okay. Arik, you've
Yes.
gathered a small grouping of people. A lot of them are children who are just very curious about you because of the way you're dressed and the way you carry yourself. But you've also managed to pique the interest of some of the older and more influential slaves at the plantation.
Okay.
And they gather up, and you have their attention. You have maybe a gathering of 12 or 13 of them, all told.
Excellent. I start off by trying to help. I try to grab their imagination first off by explaining the different areas in the realms and how I come from an area known where there's expansive, just miles upon miles of water and traveling on the ocean, where all they can see is this water in front of them. Imagine this water just covering everything in sight. And I sort of go into that a little bit, and then I talk about I
mean, speaking about the oceans, I mean, you have their rapt attention just mentioning the water, and you see
Sure.
the looks of imagination on the children in particular. One of them pipes up and says, "What, you mean bigger than the river?"
I mean bigger than this whole village. Bigger than anything you could possibly think of.
And you look out at some of the older slaves, and these men, most of them have never seen the ocean, of course, but
Right.
they know that it exists. And you see, they're listening intently to your story. One of them, in particular, one of the older men. Let me get his thing on up here. Where's my NPC list?
Starting a slave revolt.
So they make the slaves revolt and then burn down the village.
One of the older gentlemen.
Check.
He has a bald head. He has this. Of course, they've all been branded on the shoulder with the Udox symbol. But you see, when you speak of the ocean, you see recognition and sadness in his face in particular. But he doesn't speak up. He doesn't interrupt. He just stands silently as he watches you. I mean, the children you have in front of you, they are the most attentive. They love hearing the stories of this endless water.
Do I note? It sounds like I noticed that he's sort of despondent, but knows what I'm talking about.
You get the sense that he has first-hand knowledge of what you're talking about. Like, you see a sense of longing in his face.
I point to him and I say, it looks like you, as though you know what I am talking about.
And all the children look back, and some of the older slaves, when you single the man out, they also kind of seem to know what you're talking about as well. And the man nods. So I've been on your ocean. I've seen your endless waters.
So then you can verify what I am talking about is true then.
He looks down at the children, and he tries to put a little bit of excitement in his voice. And he says, "Every word."
Excellent. At that point, then I start talking about. I start talking about the gods and deities and the concept of having a patron deity and Osprim. And I hold up my holy symbol, my amulet, and I let the children come up to it, and I let them look at it and everything.
One of them says, "So what? Osprum's like a hero, like the Witch Kings."
Like the what?
Romneus, your time in Kiska, ancient times, long ago, immemorial, instead of having city-states like it does now, was ruled by kingdoms ruled by who were called the Witch Kings. And very little is known from this area of history, but it's faded into legend, and now there are many stories about the Witch Kings.
You see, and I could make myself a Witch King.
So you definitely get the sense like these children have never heard of gods before. But once again, the bald man, you see again that look of recognition and longing as you mention the gods, and you mention the sense of having faith and worshiping a deity.
I point to him again then and say, "You, sir, again. It sounds like you know what I am talking about."
He nods. He says, "I from another lifetime. I do."
Excellent. I talk about Osprey a little more, about how she's the patron deity of the seas and of this giant, vast ocean that these children are dreaming of. I sort of explain that it's not witch kings or anything like that, but more of sort of, well, I was going to say benevolent, but they're not really benevolent.
No, Osprey is definitely not benevolent. She is...
Right, yeah. So, and start explaining to him that you know, that she overlooks and she takes care of, and she makes sure that this vast ocean, these vast oceans and these vast seas are looked after and tended after, and that everything is right with the sea. And I want to show them like her power, what it means, like what she's capable of.
So what do you do to display this power?
I let loose a thaumaturgy cantrip.
Okay.
One of the things I can do is call thunder.
Okay.
With it.
So, like, where do you call, like, where to? In the middle of this flock of children, roll damage.
No, not in the middle, but off in the distance, because I'm assuming it's a sunny day out here.
Oh yeah, and I mean
and that
these areas do see rain, but not very frequently. Some of these children probably haven't seen it in their lifetime. So you call on this thunderclap, and I mean they're amazed, and you get a round of applause. And one of the children pipes up, says, "He's got magics, just like Miss Poem."
But it's not just me. My power comes from Osprim herself, and I show my holy symbol, my amulet, again.
Okay, and you definitely have their attention. They definitely enjoyed your proselytizing, but you definitely get the sense like the whole concept of religion kind of goes over these kids, and some of the adults too. Like most of these slaves were born slaves here on this plantation.